friends. Welcome to Flosstube and Variety Show number 69, I think. I'm Emily Williams in Chapel Hill, North Carolina, and today is January 27th. I think that's right. 2023, it's Friday, whatever date it is. I think it's the 27th. Flosstube means cross stitch and things like that. Variety show means something else. We'll see what that turns out to be today. I've had a productive week since I last made a video last Friday, including quite a bit of time in my sewing room, which I'm hoping my friend Cindy and I will make a quilting video sometime in the next week or 10 days or so. And we'll talk more about what we've been up to in that realm when we do that. If you follow me on Instagram, recently I posted a picture of some fabric that I had cut that I'm again testing out, auditioning some color placement or value placement more for some blocks for the quilt that I'm making for my friend Anne. Again, I'm not going to really put that into this video since I hope pretty soon to have something to say about that in a quilting specific video. But cross stitch is our first order of business today. So I'll start with Eliza Stringer, age 6. This is the little sampler reproduced by Hands Across the Sea in preparation for our, I'm sorry, I'm trying to get my computer to come on again because it has my notes, which I don't really need until the variety show portion. Because guess what? I actually plan it. It isn't a, let's just discover what it is, whatever comes to my mind. Usually, sometimes it is. Eliza Stringer, age 6. It's reproduced from an antique sampler by Hands Across the Sea. And we are supposed to choose our own colors, so I chose these colors, and you see I'm really almost done. So that's good. This section down here, this little motif, that border, I haven't completely settled on what colors I'm going to put there. So that's one reason I sort of paused before the word truth, the last word in the scripture verse that's going to be there, because the next thing vertically is that border. But I really am pleased with how this is turning out, and I'm perfectly fine with this verse. This is 46 count Latte. I don't know the dyer. And these are 100.3 silks. 4 colors that I chose. The 4 being green, pink, red, of course, and that tan color that I put my initials in up in the alphabet above. Anyway, this is fun. Will it be a finish before I see you next? Probably not, but maybe close. And then what? I don't know. I'm going to show this next, Under the Roof of Blue Ionian Weather. I mean, what a scene. I really love that painting. And I've committed to myself and to you, although I feel, I'm sorry to say, less committed to you, to show this every other week because it helps me keep moving. And also because it makes me put it back a little ways and I see more. For instance, that woman sitting on the marble bench there is really coming into being, which when I'm working on her, it's all so much the same. It's really hard for me to discern that I'm making progress, but I am making progress. So that's good. I've done, since the beginning of January, I've done just over 1,000 stitches on this. My goal for February is probably going to be 1,500 or so stitches. February, A, it's a short month, and B, because Cindy and I are going to the quilt show for 4 days toward the end of the month, and It may seem as if 4 days shouldn't make any difference in my cross stitch capacity, but it really does. It does have an impact. This is not the pattern. This is just the booklet, Frisian band sampler. The design by Modern Folk Embroidery, the marketing by Evertote, and the floss and fabric by Roxy Floss Company, I mean. And if you can look closely, you'll see that I've made progress. But a lot of the progress is in another thread color that's really close to the fabric. So what happens here is that from below this band down to about here is a little sampler. So I would say it's sort of a, I would call it almost a Quaker style sampler that appears there with a few motifs. There's a little dog. You could just see it if the light, if I make the shadow show up right. That's not bad. Maybe they're supposed to be snowflakes. So that's what's happening there. This is through day 18, and that red thread is the beginning of day 19. There's some more red in this section, and then the day 19's thread color, that was the package we opened on day 19, is a little bit of a browner neutral that will go in there. Yeah, you have to be really careful. So I said I wasn't going to comment anymore about the threads being the same color as the fabric. Okay, I won't. Here's another one where I'm having a little bit of that kind of trouble. Rose Manor by With Thy Needle and Thread. I am really enjoying stitching on this, which is a good thing because I had to stitch part of it twice. So this is, if I hold it way back here, then it looks much lighter. Wow, you can really see through that. Sorry about that. I don't have a board or anything to put behind it at the moment. It looks much lighter than it does in person. But I have been working on this border, and I've decided that if you look at this picture, so I'm up here, and I'm down to about here on the border. So I have just a few more of those flowers. And this is all pretty sparse stitching, and it feels like, wow, I'm making really fast progress. And then you get down here, and it's solid through this. So what I've decided is I'm going to come down here on this border, and I'm going to start working this way, because if I don't, I'll get to the point where I've done everything has this open feel to it, and then I'll have like 6 months worth of solid stitching. So I want to start working on that and sort of fit it in at the same time. So that's my plan on that. Now, whereas the linen is dark, this is 36 count Brenda's Brew, which is what's called for. And I'm using one thread, 1/2 of the called for overdyed cottons. And the linen is dark, but I really am enjoying the actual stitching of it. Now, I would not be able to do it without magnification, because you have to, when you're stitching on linen, as I'm sure everybody I'm talking to knows, you have to notice which thread it's going over. You stitch in a certain spot in the way the weave goes, and there would be no way that I would discern that, and I wouldn't get it right, and I wouldn't line up my stitches, which I want to go back actually for a moment to Eliza Stringer, because I made a mistake on that score right down here. I think it's the letter I is off by half a stitch, i.e. by one thread. And I looked at that, and I can tell. And if it were being entered in a show, I'm sure it's very obvious to somebody who would be judging a piece like this. I'm not taking it out because that letter is in the wrong place. There's plenty of extra space to shift things a little bit. In fact, I think I made a mistake in a previous line. Where things started, it doesn't matter. You just can't tell. And from the heritage of this type of sampler, many of these samplers use the same motifs because there were motif books passed around, or because this governess got it from her down the road friend governess or her mother or something, and they are not all rendered the same by these little girls. Most of the sampler stitchers are little girls. All right, now I'm going to show this is Sampler 193, that catchy name, by 2x2 Stitch Art, and I'm doing this on 16 count white Aida in DMC 777, 2 threads. This is really going to be spectacular when it's done. I've done a fair amount up here, probably 600-700 stitches up there. There's a lot of stitches in it. So my thought is that I'm going to work my way down that side until I have reached the quarter mark, which will mean I'll have this corner done. And then I'll either carry on down below or I'll go back to the top, but it's going to be square and it'll be beautiful. My thought had been to make a pillow cover out of it, a cushion cover, I don't know. Seems like it might be a waste of something that people should have to look at on the wall. I don't know. And then finally, the last weekend was the 3rd weekend of the month, and my friend Leslie and I have decided we're going to do Christmas stitching on the 3rd weekend of every month. So we started this piece, the Nativity Scene by Stitchy Princess, which is an Etsy, and Stitchy Princess is from the Ukraine. And Leslie posted on Instagram and Facebook that she started here, so she did a center start. And I started down here mainly because I wanted to put these little ground pieces in that gave me some way to anchor the rest of it. And I think that when I had videoed last week, I wasn't sure what fabric I was going to use, and I chose the light blue 18 count Aida. So there's a shepherd and the beginning of one of the kings, and the N and the A of Nativity. And I am excited about how this looks. I think this is going to look even better, or I should say much better in person than in this picture, which is kind of, I mean, we'll see, but I'm very happy with that. It's kind of sad. Now, my weekend didn't start until Saturday evening, so it extended all the way into Monday. And it's kind of sad to only work on it one weekend a month, but if I add it in and do it more often, then I will find my other pieces suffering in terms of being able to make any progress. So I think I'll stick with that. I think 3rd weekend of the month being Christmas stitching is a good idea. So another thing I wanted to show you, this is cross-stitch related, is I got, so I'm a patron, a member of the Patreon of Fox and Rabbit, which is an Etsy shop. No, it's not an Etsy shop. It's a website and a shop, and they are Brendan and Karen Kirk. Here's their logo. Very cute. The fox is Brendan, and Karen is the rabbit. And they are a couple, a married couple, and they dye fabric. This is Say Cheese, isn't that? I mean, it's a beautiful spring Eastery yellow color. I don't have anything like this in my fabric stash, cross-stitch fabric stash. I think that will be fun to come up with something to stitch on. In fact, I have an idea, but I'm not starting anything else for a while. Anyway, every month they send a project bag. No, every quarter they send a project bag and a fabric, a fat quarter of fabric, of the type of fabric that you want. And I've chosen 18 count Aida. And so this is the project bag, which Karen makes. And so it has, you know, this fabric on the inside, and it's nice. It's nice. I don't think she actually irons her batting in at all. I've been sort of researching how these things are made, but I like that. This has the Christmas stitching in it right now. And I like this fabric. Last quarter's fabric was called Baked Clay, I think, and that is a nice grayish, tannish gray fabric that would make a nice sampler type color. So anyway, that was fun to receive. It's always fun to receive what feels like presents, even though I paid for them in the mail. So I hinted last week I was going to show you something that I came across when I was looking for fabric, and I forgot, of course, but sort of a blast from the past. Look at the price of that. That's 6 needles in 2 sizes, which I use now, 24 and 26. I will say I don't use 24 much, but 65 cents for 6 needles. I have 3 packages, and I know that I think I bought these. That is, I don't think they're from my childhood, but from my adulthood, probably 30 years ago, and 65 cents probably seemed like a lot of money and a little bit of an extravagance to buy 3 packs of them. But I think I actually probably bought 4 packs, and the other needles were used and lost. But I came across this, which I think is older, 50 sewing needles for 80 cents. And that's kind of amazing. Actually, there's a sticker there which suggests that maybe it was on sale. So maybe we didn't even pay 80 cents. And I'm going to guess that my mother bought these. But I used some of them. I have a few needle books like this that I still have needles in them that are still in good condition. You know, they haven't rusted or gotten corroded or anything, and they're still great. So, time for the variety show. Now, as you know, I used to read a lot, and now I read quite a bit, certain things now. I read, in all my life, I have read mostly fiction. And both classics like Dickens and Anthony Trollope and Jane Austen, as well as contemporary fiction. Mysteries I like a lot. But I also like certain kinds of nonfiction. And in order for it to appeal to me, if it's nonfiction, it needs to be popular learning. So a popular, well, I was on a kick for a while of reading books about George Washington. So they were biographies, and they weren't meticulous biographies. They were sort of big picture, let's hit the highlights kind of biographies. Very interesting. I read a few, sort of connected with that, I read books about the American Revolution. Again, not deeply serious books with political theory in them, but the events, the people, interesting anecdotes. I like that kind of reading of nonfiction. And I also like reading nonfiction that has to do with math or science, but not, again, deeply scholarly, but accessible to a reasonably intelligent but not highly educated in that area kind of reader. So today I have 3 books about math to talk about. And 2 of them I have as Kindle books, and so I can't actually show you the physical book, but I'll put a picture. But this first one, I do have the physical book. It's called The Joy of X. Now there's a title that it will definitely grab the attention, by Stephen Strogatz, a guided tour of math from 1 to infinity. Now this is a book about math. That is to say, it has application it talks about what the point of it is. But it is math, and there are diagrams and sort of explanations of real mathematical concepts in here. Well, of course, now I'm flipping through the pages and you can't see it. But there are equations and it's sort of how to, it's sort of a way to get at the math that you already learned and synthesize it with the different branches of math and different types of applications of math. And it's also a history of math. So it talks about the digits and about real numbers and irrational numbers. And I'm now saying words that I might not know the meanings of, but I enjoyed that book. I thought it was pretty good. Was it the easiest and most popular and accessible math book that I've read? No. Another one that I will mention, let me just be sure, is a book called How Not to Be Wrong. The Power of Mathematics in Thinking. No, The Power of Mathematical Thinking by Jordan Ellenberg. And I'll put a picture, an image of the book cover up here. Now, this is a book that is mostly about how statistics are used in news stories and in studies and reports in ways that you might not realize. And so it's helping you, if you read this book, you will learn a little bit about how to interpret things that you hear that seem to be based on math or on statistics in particular. Things like, 63% of Americans disapprove of X. Well, what does that mean? Exactly how do you get there? And that kind of thing. Again, a very interesting book. Sort of helps you think. It's a kind of math book that helps you think. Now, the third one I'm going to mention is called Humble Pie, When Math Goes Wrong in the Real World, and I'll put an image of the cover here. This is by Matt Parker. Now, this is a book, I would say there are about 20 chapters. Again, it's on my Kindle. It's a little harder to review it in that format. And they have to do with specific events in history where math was applied incorrectly, or it was applied correctly, but something about it wasn't correct. Some assumption wasn't correct or whatever. And so there are things mentioned. There's a lottery, scam is not the word because it was legit, but how gambling works and how it can go wrong, not for the addicted gambler, but for the house who thinks they have a system set up that they don't. And things of that sort. Very, very interesting and entertainingly written. And in terms of the accessibility, I think of these three books, this is the most accessible, the most lighthearted. And that would make sense because Matt Parker has a YouTube channel called Stand Up Maths, where he has excerpts from his lectures. He has videos that are, produced videos for YouTube, as well as lectures that he gives, which are stand-up comedy having to do with math. And he's a very smart guy, very, sort of tongue-in-cheek, wry kind of humor, and entertaining, and very good at explaining math and demonstrating mathematical concepts in ways that you will enjoy and learn something from. So I do recommend his YouTube channel, Stand Up Maths, and I put it in the description box below this video. I go there every so often and watch 2 or 3 of his videos because they sort of tickle my mind. They make me think, and they're entertaining. Every year, for instance, on March 14th, which is Pi Day, he calculates pi, or has his graduate student assistants calculate pi according to different methods that have been used over the centuries. He journeys to locations to demonstrate certain things. There's a video about what is north, and he goes to different points in England. He's English, so he goes to different points in the United Kingdom, and maybe not even the United Kingdom, to discuss how north is determined and known. Anyway, very entertaining guy. And even if you think you don't like math, you probably would like his YouTube channel. Now, he does get deep, shall we say, but nonetheless, entertaining and interesting. But his book, Humble Pie, is a good place to start. So what else do I have to talk about? Well, next weekend that is not tomorrow, but the first weekend in February. I have been doing the first weekend of the month Blackbird stitching, and I am going to do that. When I do the video next weekend, I will tell you for sure what I'm going to be working on, and I'll have gathered at least some of the threads and decided on my fabric and so on. Blackbird Designs is a great favorite, so that'll be fun. No matter what I pick, I think it'll be fun. Another thing coming up is I really must, in the next week, maybe month, decide on what small item I'm going to be stitching for the Smalls Exchange at the Great British Sampler Weekend in the end of September in England, because it'll take some time to stitch it, possibly to gather materials for it, although I should have everything I need, I would think, to stitch it and then to finish it into something, a little pillow or needle book or whatever it turns out to be. So I have to make a decision about that. I've been toying with the idea of designing something myself, just using a few motifs, borders, letters of the alphabet from that great sampler motif source book by Brenda Keys that I used a lot in working on Anne's sampler last year, the purple sampler. So I might do that, or I might pick something that I have the chart for already. Whatever I choose, it'll be fine, but I can't delay. And of course, I'll keep working up in my sewing room on the things I'm working on, which I hope to show you soon, in a couple of weeks. And I'll keep working on my cross stitch and try not to start anything new. I will say though, Hands Across the Sea has just released a new chart called Emily Kalwar, which I think they released it maybe 10 days ago, and I've been checking the online shops I buy things from, Kitten Stitcher, Hobby House Needleworks, 123 Stitch. Those are the main three that I have been looking at. None of them has it yet, has it listed. But it's a beautiful, not too large sampler reproduction that attracts me because it has some beautiful, very elegant alphabets in it and different colors, sort of teal blue type colors, which I think would be quite lovely to stitch with. And the pattern, I believe, is suitable for Aida. It's all cross stitch, and it has a DMC conversion, which I think is very kind, because I don't really want to buy a lot of silks. Yeah. So, but I'm going to try. I might buy that chart just to have it on hand, but I'm really going to try not to start it, because you can go crazy. Now, I've been watching some whip parades, which people tend to do at the beginning of the year. I think they're fascinating because it shows something. It shows usually a wide variety of types of cross-stitch projects that exist, as well as and what that person likes, you know, what particular bent that person has, as well as how many works in progress people are comfortable having, what they think is a good number. So I was watching one Stitchy Mommy. I think she has over 100 projects in progress. Now she's considerably younger than I am. So she has plenty of time in her life to keep working on those. Another woman who's also considerably younger than I am has 39 whips, which she didn't want people, she commented in her video, she's very friendly. It's Elizabeth Ann Can Stitch. I highly recommend her Flosstube, by the way, because she's very personable. She does a nice job in the production of it, and she's eclectic in her taste, so you'll see a lot of different kinds of things. And she said that, you know, I don't want to see your comments about me having too many whips. And I'm thinking, by some standards, you don't have enough whips. But by my standard, you have many, many, many more whips than I would want to have. But it's a temptation to start something new, 2 or 3 things new, which I'm going to resist. I'm going to finish Eliza Stringer for certain before I start anything new. And I'm probably going to finish the Countdown Stitch Along, the Frisian band sampler, Evertote, Modern Folk Embroidery, before I start anything new. Other than the Blackbird, which I'll start next weekend, but that's a specific time frame that I work on it, which I don't feel, I mean, it is a work in progress, or it will be once it's actually in progress. But I don't count that in the same way that I count the ones that I expect to work on to make some progress on every week. So, yeah, we'll see. I have too many ideas in my sewing room. In the quilting and other kinds of sewing realm, I have far too many ideas. I need to clone myself. Maybe I'll look into that. I'll let you know in the next video what I discover. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you have a great week of stitching and getting outdoors if the weather is conducive, and enjoying your family and football, NFL football, championships this weekend, whatever all you have going on. Many blessings to you, friends.